Hello everyone, my name is Keith, amateur radio call WD4PTJ. You know, we hams talk quite a bit about getting new hams into the hobby and getting younger hams into the hobby. And all that's well and good. We should be concentrating on that. I'm going to talk today about something else, and that's retainment. How many people get their ham radio license and either never become active, or if they do become active for a period of time, they eventually reach a point where they're not active? In thinking about this subject, I decided to try to determine approximately how many hams in my general area are active. Now, I live in a rural county here in West Tennessee, and the population is approximately 50,000 people. Now, some of you may know that you can go to QRZ, and besides looking up an individual call sign to see who it belongs to, you can also look up several other things, and one of them is how many amateur radio licenses are in your county. So when I looked up my county, which is Gibson County, Tennessee, I found that there was 226 amateur radio call signs listed in that county. So then I tried to determine how many of those people were actually active, how many of those hams were active. And one thing I did, I went through the entire list, and some of the call signs listed there, the license had already expired. Some of them had been expired for quite some time, much as a year or more. And some of them, a few of them were silent keys. It was listed as a silent key, and there was a handful that I knew personally were silent keys. So that, by doing all that, I took that number 226 down to 98 call signs that appeared to be active call signs at this time. So the question then was, how many of those 98, and that's an approximate number also, how many of those 98 actually were active? So I got in touch with a friend of mine, fellow ham, that is net control operator for a couple of nets. One of them is the Tennessee phone net, and the other is a 2-meter Ecom net that we have here in the rural West Tennessee. And he told me that on the Tennessee phone net, that from Gibson County there was 10 hams listed on the roster, and about 5 to 6 that are usually active, that check in on any kind of regular basis. On the Ecom net, he said there was 50, which that surprised me right there, listed on that Ecom net, the 2 meters, but there was only about 10 to 12 that are active checking in on any kind of regular basis. So the question is, what can we do about this? Can we do anything about this? Should we really even be worried that much about this? I think that we need to be concerned about this. I mean, we need to try to keep people that get into the hobby active and keep them interested in amateur radio. But I'm going to admit right off the bat, I don't know if I have the answer. I mean, we can come up with suggestions, I'm sure, you know, trying to reach out to new hams and get them involved, trying to help them in any way we can, and setting up a station, encouraging them to participate in any nets, local nets that might be going on. We can encourage them like that, but I'm really not sure how far that will go and what else we need to do. And I will say this, I realize that people get into amateur radio for a lot of different reasons. I've made videos before about whether amateur radio was a hobby or not, and you know, that kind of varies from person to person. There are people who get into amateur radio for nothing but emergency communication, and in some cases perhaps they don't consider it a hobby. I know some people, one who in particular I'm thinking of, who says that he got into amateur radio, his big driving force, big driving reason to get into amateur radio in the beginning was emergency communication, but since then he has realized that it is a hobby to him, and he's very active in all aspects of amateur radio. But there are some people, I suppose, who get into amateur radio strictly for emergency communication, and perhaps in that case they get a radio, they use it a few times, see that it does work, and I don't know, if it's a handheld, maybe they put it in a drawer somewhere, or they just, unless there is an emergency, they're not active. They're not using that radio, which I would advise anybody that looks at it that way, that is interested in amateur radio for emergency communication, to realize that you need to practice your amateur radio techniques. You need to get on nets and check in, and you need to get used to working your radio. So that's one thing I would encourage those people who got into it really strictly for emergency communication, to realize that you can't just buy the radio, set it up, see that it works, and then just forget about it. You need to get in there and be active, and also on a local level, get familiar with the other hams in your area, because that can be something that's useful when there is an emergency and you are trying to participate in some emergency communication. So I realize some people are going to go, well, Keith, you brought up this topic, but you have no solutions to it, or no real solutions to it, and I realize that. And I'm asking in the comment section here, if you have ideas as to how we can keep people active, how we can encourage new hams to stay active, please let me know. How we as individual hams and how we as clubs. That's one area that probably can help is clubs reaching out to new hams and making sure that they are active. So with that, I'm going to sort of close this out. And please, in the comment sections, if you have ideas as to how we can keep new hams active, be sure and let us know in the comment section. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to bring this subject up. It's something I've been thinking about for a while now, and really kind of thought maybe I would come up with more solutions before I made the video, and really haven't. So if you have solutions to this topic, then please list them in the comment section to this video. And as always, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, 73 everyone.